thank you semuanya, thank you Bu Tati, semua timnya, thank you for having us again. Terima kasih mau nyediain waktunya ke depan untuk dengerin kami. It's such an honor and privilege untuk bisa share lagi. Jadi kita langsung aja.
Maybe like a recap dulu of last week kali ya.
Oh, oke. Mungkin review sedikit yang Women's Talk lalu yang kita sharing itu, kita mau anak-anak kita tumbuh to love God with all their minds and strengths and with all their heart, nggak cuma di hati aja gitu. Jadi mereka perlu tahu why they believe, kenapa mereka percaya, tapi bukan cuma apa yang mereka percaya, tapi why they believe, itu juga penting banget. Dan we talk about bagaimana building biblical worldview. Worldview itu adalah pandangan dunia, lensa di mana kita memberikan konteks di dunia ini. Juga kita belajar bagaimana untuk mengenal zaman dan waktu untuk kita bisa know what to do. So hari ini kita akan share about kemarin kita udah kenal challenges of the season. Remember we talk about it, right?
For the host, can I please have the co-host so I can share the present, like some verses also?
Ya, mau share sedikit slide untuk ayat-ayat. Okay.
What about the biblical worldview, like a lens?
Iya, jadi kita kemarin ngomong tentang biblical worldview. Penting banget anak-anak itu bisa nggak cuma tahu ayat-ayatnya, tapi melihat dunia ini dari sisi firman Tuhan. Karena anak-anak zaman sekarang terlalu banyak information overload. Mereka melihat culture of the day dan nilai-nilai yang ada di dunia ini itu sekarang benar-benar nggak sesuai dengan firman Tuhan. Bahkan banyak dari anak-anak muda yang kita ajak ngobrol sekarang, walaupun mereka ada di gereja, mereka anak-anak Tuhan, tapi saat diajak ngobrol ternyata mereka punya mindset itu is very secular, jadi terbentuk dari culture yang ada. Jadi ini ayatnya yang waktu itu kita belajar. Jadi kita mau menjadi orang-orang yang mengerti waktu dan tahu apa yang harus kita lakukan. Jadi karena kita udah kenal challenges-nya, bukannya kita jadi takut dan kita bilang, aduh, it's temptation-nya itu adalah kita harus protect anak-anak kita dan ngumpet di dalam gua dan nggak usah
ostrich, like an ostrich, like ostrich Christianity.
Jadi kayak ostrich gitu. Jadi ostrich itu burung onta. Burung onta itu kan maunya masuk ke dalam pasir, hiding their heads, ngumpet dalam pasir itu supaya hoping that these ideas will go away on its own gitu. And that's not it gitu. Tapi apa yang Tuhan mau? Tuhan sebenarnya bilang in Matthew 28 verse 9, go and make disciples of all nations. Fill the earth and subdue it. Itu berarti Tuhan mau kita keluar, go, dan menguasai dunia. Menguasai dunia itu berarti kita harus ada di dalam dunia, being the salt of the world, salt of the earth, light of the world. Gitu ya. Jadi is the
Tapi is that like a temptation that all the parents have to protect their kids kayak gitu ya?
Yeah.
Soalnya like seringkali juga among my peers and people in the church, I've seen juga lots of that kind of parenting, that ostrich bubble, like those kids live in a bubble,
I agree. Jadi banyak banget yang kita lihat gitu dari pengalaman kita, dari teman-teman, dan mungkin Morty dari teman-teman orang tua teman-temannya ya. Jadi mereka tuh ada satu contohnya misalnya, kalau misalnya kamu mau kirim anak-anak ke luar negeri, kamu harus kenal dulu lingkungan di sana, memperkenalkan mereka kepada teman-teman yang kamu pilih, dan kamu bikin grup sama orang tuanya, jadi udah supaya itu aman dan tentram gitu. Jadi mereka dari kecil udah didik dalam gereja, sekolah Kristen, sekolah Minggu, terus dan dipilihin teman-temannya, grupnya, influence-nya, semuanya itu banyak banget yang seperti itu gitu. Bahkan ada juga orang tua yang bisa datang ke sekolah dan bilang sama temannya, kamu tuh nggak boleh berteman sama anak saya ya, please stay away from my child. Gitu. Jadi kadang-kadang ada orang tua yang ekstrim seperti itu.
But we're called to be released. Right?
Iya, tapi sebagai if we believe, kalau kita percaya bahwa anak-anak itu adalah arrows in our hands, yang Tuhan mau adalah kita bisa memprepare anak-anak kita dan akhirnya kita merilis mereka. Tapi it's not easy. Kita nggak bisa cuma rilis tanpa prepare mereka karena it's the world out there itu is different today than it is before gitu.
Because you cannot. I appreciate maybe from the standpoint of a kid, and also can you help me translate?
Yeah.
Yeah, mungkin from a standpoint as from a kid, that bubble kind of parenting is strong and like it's something that is valid, but at the same time, I would dare to say that I would go so far to say that that is something that is indoctrinating.
Iya.
You know?
Jadi itu kan namanya kita membungkus anak-anak kita tuh dalam bubble. Itu kan kita pernah make discussion ya. What do you think? Bagaimana sih kalau misalnya anak-anak itu, wow, ini parents-nya benar-benar membuat mereka hidup dalam bubble ya. And then kita bercanda gitu. Tapi kalau seumur hidup bubble-nya udah ready, dari bubble ke bubble sih it's fine gitu. Cuma kalau nanti suatu saat bubble-nya pecah dan anak itu nggak tahu harus berbuat apa, dan orang tuanya udah nggak ada di sisi mereka lagi untuk guiding mereka. Jadi the key to preparation itu adalah mempersiapkan, bukannya memprotek.
So not to always keep them, because we have to leave the bubble one day, right?
Iya, jadi lebih baik kita merilis anak-anak kita early saat kita ada di sisi mereka untuk guiding mereka, and they're at a safe place gitu. Karena mereka akan jatuh, mereka akan make mistakes, tapi when they make mistakes itu masih ada safe place yang bisa memberikan mereka insight, skills,
the way
to
think.
Yeah. Jadi yang tadi Mordi bilang itu kalau misalnya kita nggak kasih tahu mereka bagaimana cara memberikan mereka skill to think, itu namanya indoktrinisasi. Which is indoktrinisasi itu kita cuma kasih tahu mereka, oh ya, belajar dari Bible aja, dan just learn one thing, what to believe, itu namanya kita nggak mengajari mereka untuk to think, kita nggak memberikan mereka opportunity untuk berpikir.
Yeah, so we can't just tell them what to think, but we need to know why we think it. Right?
Ya, kita harus tahu kenapa kita salah satu. Jadi contohnya membaca gitu ya. Bagaimana sih untuk memprepare anak-anak, kasih mereka skill itu caranya dengan teaching them how to think. Jadi contohnya reading. We cannot just give them words to memorize. Misalnya kita cuma ngajarin mereka untuk hafalin kata-kata, tapi kita mau ngajarin mereka bagaimana mengenal huruf dan nanti mengcombine ke huruf-huruf itu supaya mereka bisa membaca semuanya yang ada yang di buku-buku gitu. Kalau mereka cuma menghafal kata-kata ya mereka cuma bisa baca kata-kata itu.
Same with Bible verses ya.
Iya. Jadi kita mau teach anak-anak kita bagaimana ya mereka kenal Bible verse, mereka tahu ada ayat-ayat ini, tapi apakah mereka bisa meng-apply itu dalam kehidupan mereka sehari-hari?
We need to give them critical thinking abilities. Yeah. It's like kind of, so that's what you're doing with Micah and Moses.
Yeah.
Like when you engage them in those discussions and you have that, like, what does that look like? What does it look like to engage the critical thinking abilities of kids?
Jadi kita tuh kan ngajarin anak-anak kita critical thinking. Kenapa itu perlu banget? Karena even menurut studi dari Stanford University, 80% dari murid-murid itu nggak bisa bedain fake news and real news. That's why itu penting banget anak-anak untuk diajarin critical gitu. Jadi ketika mereka baca satu news, itu satu artikel, even the Bible gitu. Jadi we are always asking questions. Jadi kamu dapat ini dari mana? What is the source? How do you feel when you're reading the article? And what is the narrative? Kira-kira narasinya apa ya? Kira-kira orang ini mau membuat kamu terima apa saat kamu baca ini? Jadi asking these questions itu waktu mereka baca berita, waktu mereka baca sesuatu, dan itu nggak cuma stop there, even in faith gitu. Jadi what do you think this verse is saying? Jadi waktu baca Alkitab, jadi asking questions about culture juga, kita tanya, what do you think these people believe in this? It's things like that.
Like, so you're not just teaching us to think, but like teaching us to line Christianity up with reality, right?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes what I see lots of churches or what families will do is they will just say something and they will take it as fact, like immediately as fact.
Yeah.
When, we have to line it up with reality. We understand the reason why I believe the Bible is true is because I know it's true and I've tested it against my faith. And I know on a convictional, on a spiritual level, I'm convicted of its truth. That's why I believe it's truth.
Yeah.
So that's why we're Christians. We're Christians because we believe that Jesus is raised from the grave. So we need to teach kids to think in that, ini nggak sih, conviction.
Benar. Jadi itu membuat mereka benar-benar yakin bahwa iman mereka itu nggak buta, karena anak-anak banyak gereja berpikir bahwa kalau kita pakai pikiran itu berarti nggak beriman. Jadi itu yang seringkali kita dengar ya, klisenya gitu, which is wrong. Kita mungkin lihat sebentar. Jadi ada namanya Barna Group di Amerika, ini surveinya, dia bilang ini top 4 reasons kenapa young people leave the church. Itu salah satunya yang paling atas adalah church shallowness of thought, including its biblical teaching and practice. Jadi gereja itu nggak mengajarkan tentang engaging their minds with the truth. Jadi shallow. The feeling that is unsafe place to express doubts and get answers to the question.
Yeah. So we just want to focus on the shallowness of thought. It's that actually the truth isn't shallow.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you truly believe in the Bible and you believe in its truth, you believe Jesus raised from the dead, that's a truth, that's a fact. It's something that can be tested, something that can be proven. And there's actually a lot of reasons why people fall, right? This is the reason why a lot of people fall. For example, there's this, will you tell the story then?
Iya. Jadi kenapa itu penting banget, karena banyak orang berpikir bahwa kekristenan itu shallow dan truth itu shallow, padahal when we see actually Christianity itu yang paling make sense in the world.
This was an Instagram post by Marty Sampson, and he was a singer songwriter for Hillsong.
Beberapa waktu yang lalu, kira-kira tahun 2019 ya, kita dikagetkan dengan berita ada seorang worship leader, songwriter yang terkenal gitu. Ini karena udah public banget gitu. Jadi this is his post on Instagram. Dia bilang begini, time for some real talk. I'm genuinely losing my faith and it doesn't bother me. What bothers me now is nothing. Jadi I'm so happy now, so at peace with the world, and so on and so on. Tapi dia bilang begini, how many preachers fall? Many, no one talks about it. How many miracles happen? Not many, no one talks about it. Why is the Bible full of contradictions? No one talk about it. How can God be love yet send 4 billion people to place? Because they don't believe. No one talks about it.
Science keeps piercing the truth.
Iya, dia bilang. Science keeps piercing the truth of every religion. Lots of things help people change their lives, not just one version of God. Jadi ini tuh when he comes, jadi inilah salah satu contoh ya. Ini bukannya untuk nakut-nakutin, karena ini udah public banget. Jadi salah satu contoh ketika doubts itu dia nggak bisa diekspresikan dan dia nggak bisa nemuin jawaban gitu, dan kita nggak immune, kita nggak bilang oh ya karena mungkin dia we don't know why gitu, why he struggles with this, tapi yang kita tahu adalah berarti orang ini nggak menemukan di mana dia harus mencari jawaban, padahal dia sendiri adalah a prominent figure di sebuah mega church. Jadi tapi kalau kita lihat,
we're not all immune, right?
Yeah.
Even the John the Baptist himself, when he was locked up in prison, he told one of his messengers to ask Jesus this. This is John the Baptist, right? This is the guy who knew Jesus before Jesus was even born. He was the one who prophesied and foretold the coming of Jesus. Even John the Baptist, in prison, when he was facing his struggle in his dark moments, he had some doubts. He said, "Are you the one who is to come, or should we expect someone else?" He asked Jesus this.
Jadi waktu dibilang yang mau dibilang tadi, memang benar mungkin kita nggak bisa bilang oh ya kita kebal atau apapun. Kalau kita lihat ada contohnya di Alkitab, Yohanes Pembaptis pun had his moments of doubts. Waktu dia ada di dalam penjara itu dia pernah meragukan. Jadi dia bertanya, apakah engkau yang kita nantikan gitu. Dia kirim temannya untuk nanya Tuhan Yesus, tapi Tuhan Yesus itu nggak marah and so merciful. Tuhan Yesus itu bilang, hey, please tell John what you see, the miracles that I perform. Tolong kasih tahu Yohanes bahwa engkau menyaksikan miracles, the blind see, the lame walk. Jadi tolong kasih tahu, these are the evidence. Jadi it's okay to have doubts, tapi know where to find the answers. He found the answers. Ini ada ayatnya. But in your hearts, revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect. Ini kembali lagi kita menjadi ketika what happens when anak-anak muda itu mulai bertanya-tanya, mulai memakai pikiran mereka, mulai menggali what is truth, kita harus menjadi their safe place and giving reason for the hope that they have.
And build that critical foundation for their faith, right? Because questions are good. They build your faith. They test your faith. And when your faith gets tested and you overcome that test, it becomes stronger. So the strongest type of faith has been tested and tested and tested again. And questions are good, but parents aren't always going to be there to ask. In fact, some of the questions that come up are actually not from Micah and Moses, but even they get asked questions from like people outside, like their teachers, for example.
Iya. Jadi pertanyaan-pertanyaan ini kan yang waktu itu aku pernah sharing juga di sini, bahwa anak-anak pun udah mulai kritis dan menanyakan kenapa ini bisa terjadi di dunia ini. Kalau ada Tuhan, kenapa banyak hal-hal yang buruk terjadi ini dari anak-anak sekolah minggu gitu.
But even Moses,
bahkan lately ya, anak-anak punya guru musik juga yang sebenarnya umurnya jauh lebih tua, tapi nanyain anak-anak gitu.
Dia likes to talk and share and like ask these questions. Tapi for some reason, dia really likes asking Micah and Moses.
Iya. Ada suatu hari gitu, dia panggil aku kan Cici. Wow, I'm amazed gitu, anak-anak Cici kok bisa jawabin pertanyaan-pertanyaan with deep questions. Oh ya, contohnya gimana gitu. And then he starts telling gitu, dia bilang, iya waktu itu mereka tuh mendiskusikan sesuatu gitu. Dia nanya, Moses, do you think it's fair that people with disabilities that their life is fair? Adil nggak ya? Kira-kira orang-orang yang punya cacat mental, punya kebutuhan khusus itu kayaknya hidup mereka kayaknya nggak adil ya. Terus dalam hati saya pikir, ngapain nih anak? Ini orang umur 30 nanyain anak umur 9 tahun pertanyaan yang seperti ini, but it did gitu. Terus Moses jawab begini, kok Gary, sorry my name, kok do you know that God has a purpose in every life that He created? And I was like, oh, jadi dia itu aja udah kaget gitu. Oh ya, tapi kan itu hidupnya menyusahkan gitu. Dia harus apa-apa dibantu. Dia nggak ngerti apa-apa. Dan dia maksudnya nanti kalau orang tuanya udah nggak ada itu bagaimana? Like they're talking about this. And oke, aku sih dengerin aja, cuma like wondering, ini benar-benar diskusi antara orang umur yang 30 tahun dengan 9 tahun gitu. Terus jawaban Moses begini, and you know, God can make bad things into good things. So even in this, you think this is bad thing, tapi He can make it into something good.
For example.
And then terus dia kasih contoh lagi. Dia bilang katanya, bukannya berarti disable orang cacat mental, orang yang punya kebutuhan khusus itu nggak bisa apa-apa. Contohnya, do you know Stephen Hawking? He is disabled, tapi he is actually one of the smartest people in the world. Terus dia jadi mikir, oh iya, I think I know. Okay. I think I can agree with you. Gitu. Jadi maksudnya ini adalah real life issues.
And what we're trying to say is that it's not a perfect answer.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's not a perfect answer. There is no perfect answer. But what it tells me is that Moses is thinking critically about these issues. He's not just saying something that he memorized, but as a kid, he's having these thoughts, and that is building his faith, that is building his reasoning. And that tells me when he goes out into the world, right, when we release him, because he's an arrow, like arrows in the hands of a warrior. When we release him and he faces all these questions, all these people, things that will test his faith, he's ready because he's continuously testing it and he's building it up.
Jadi bukan masalahnya, I'm glad gitu, aku juga bersyukur bahwa dia punya pengalaman yang seperti itu, yang I thought dia belum akan bisa menjawab gitu, tapi ternyata dia sudah ngalamin dan itu menjadi trainingnya dia. Dan itu juga part of releasing our children gitu. Kita
you always say, my mom always says, school is your training ground.
Iya. Contohnya juga di sekolah, kita nggak pernah bilang bahwa sekolah itu cuma tempat sebagai education. Jadi sekolah itu adalah training groundnya mereka. Iya, jadi contohnya, like you want to give example in the school, right?
You don't. Oh, like when I first came into, so it's quite ironic actually. Normally, what like Christian families would do is they would keep their kids in a Christian school, but what my parents did, they did the opposite. They actually took me from a Christian school and then they moved us to an international school.
Ya, jadi ini lanjut lagi. Ya, jadi mereka tuh udah mulai this discussion itu udah very early on sejak mereka kecil gitu, karena saya pindahin mereka dari sekolah Kristen ke sekolah internasional yang campur semuanya dari orang-orang dengan berbagai macam kepercayaan.
And this is what I asked my mom. Like a few months into coming into school, I asked my mom this.
Si Mordi nanyain ini, pertanyaan Mordi waktu dia kelas 3, kelas 4, kelas 4.
Yeah.
Jadi, Mam, itu orang-orang yang punya kepercayaan lain, mereka bilang mereka juga benar kok. They're right about their God gitu. How do we know who's right? Jadi siapa yang benar ya? Kita juga taunya Tuhan kita, Tuhan yang sebenarnya. Dan mereka bilang ya Tuhan mereka Tuhan yang benar gitu. Jadi dari kecil pun kita udah mulai being engaged in these kind of questions. Jadi okay, let's find the answer. Let's we learn how to answer all these questions.
It's more so also about exposing us into different worldviews, right? Sometimes what I see from parents is that my mom and dad have never shied away from letting us get exposed to a lot of these ideologies and these thoughts. And so even from like little, we've been already talking about polytheism and monotheism. And we get to see these examples live in our classmates, in our teachers. We get to interact with them. And even better yet, we're called to be the salt and the light of the world. And so we take that as an opportunity, as we're surrounded by people from so many different religions and cultures. That's our opportunity to be a salt. That's our opportunity to be a light. So you could say, what mom would say is that by sending us to a school that's not Christian, that's releasing us into the world. And the preparation that she's been building us up, like testing our faith and helping us think critically, that shows. And there's actually a lot of testimonies that come from being in school.
Tapi ya, jadi maksudnya dikasih tahu bahwa satu cara untuk rilis mereka itu, makanya kan kita kemarin bicara tentang kita mulai ministry dari mereka kecil, mereka mulai kenal dari segala macam komunitas, nggak cuma komunitas gereja doang, mereka kenal dengan orang-orang yang di luar kepercayaan kita. Bagaimana mereka, jadi part of it is actually loving our neighbor, don't you think?
Okay.
Yeah, like,
that works.
You know, kita belajar tentang how to how to demonstrate love to people even when we disagree with gitu. Kadang-kadang kita kan kita cuma mau kumpul sama orang-orang yang punya kepercayaan yang sama, kita cuma mau kumpul sama people with same belief karena itu semuanya supaya bisa align. Tapi when we expose them bahwa ini loh ada orang-orang yang punya kepercayaan ini, mereka malah jadi terbuka banget pikirannya dan mereka malah melihat the beauty of the gospel. Mereka malah melihat the beauty of the truth in the Bible gitu. Yang wow, Bible really speaks about truth and how we should live. Itu is so it's so amazing gitu. Jadi malah anak-anak amazed. Jadi jangan takut untuk kayak kadang-kadang mungkin orang tua takut untuk kalau misalnya kita expose mereka dengan ide-ide yang di luar kepercayaan kita yang not biblical itu malah memberikan mereka ide yang salah gitu. Tapi enggak, justru saat kita bisa compare dan kita lihat wow, this is what Jesus did and this is actually what they believe, itu malah mereka lebih convinced lagi. And I think that is the beauty of kita exposing them to other worldviews and with different kinds of people juga supaya mereka nggak takut untuk to be in the world, to be, you know, how to behave, how to live with people with, you know, with different backgrounds.
Because the end goal is to permeate the world, right? There's this one thing my mom likes to say: we are in the world, but we are not of the world. But that still means we have to be in the world, right? We are here, we have to work, we have to pay the bills, we have to pay our taxes. We're still in this world. That doesn't mean we are of the world. We don't have to share their ideas. In fact, we have to change their thinking. We have to change their ideas. But that means we have to be in the world and we have to be present and love these people that are not like us, that don't think like us, and oftentimes, even dislike us. Like, there's this one testimony that Micah came home one day. Micah is like, he's 13 years old, 12 years old, but this happened when he was around 10, I believe. And he came home with a present. Can you help me translate?
Saying this? Ya, sambil aku cerita juga. Jadi ini contohnya waktu itu Micah ada di sekolah, dia pulang gitu dengan satu hadiah. Dia bawa pulang satu hadiah itu.
And then we're like, where did you get that present from?
Terus kita tanya, kamu dapat dari mana sih hadiahnya?
Oh, I got it from Alex.
Oh, saya dapat dari Alex.
Alex is actually the bully of his class. Like, he's a bully, and he's had a lot of issues, so much that the parents are like talking against him and trying to intervene and trying to get him like expelled even. Yeah. Ya,
jadi dia bilang ya ini dari Alex, satu orang yang suka ngebully gitu di sekolah. Dan orang ini memang udah terkenal banget, banyak orang-orang punya masalah, anak-anak yang lain punya masalah dengan dia gitu.
And my mom never intervened. Right? I think throughout the initial always, what did you say to Micah? The part like itu?
Iya. Sebenarnya Micah tuh ngalamin bully itu dari even kelas 1 gitu.
Oh really?
Ya, even kelas
No,
1 dan saya tuh nggak pernah jump in untuk, I see a lot of parents do this, trying to solve their problem gitu. Tapi aku melihat itu sebagai kesempatan bagaimana dia belajar untuk manage konflik, untuk resolve konflik gitu. Dan I ask him pertama kali dia ngalamin bully, Micah, I give him the skill, bagaimana kamu bisa handle this by yourself, you can do it. But if you want me, kalau kamu mau mami ngomong sama guru atau datang ke sekolah, I will. But why don't you try this first? Jadi dari kecil memang dia udah belajar seperti anak-anak semua ya, Micah, Moses gitu. Mungkin tapi karena Moses ukurannya paling kecil, jadi dia prone to get bullied gitu.
Tapi jadi, for Micah, for Alex in this case.
Ya, jadi contohnya ini Micah ini, waktu dia dipukul gitu, dia tiba-tiba dia bisa jawab begini sama Alex, do you know that we're all created in the image of God, that God wants us to be family. And when you hit me, you're not just hurting me, you're making God sad. And this wouldn't happen, ini nggak akan terjadi kalau saya yang ke sekolah dan menyelamatkan dia gitu, atau komplain ke guru, panggil orang tuanya, kita meeting sama guru. Tapi karena dia sudah terbiasa dan kita percaya ada Holy Spirit in him that is constantly working, then he has the wisdom and we trust God to move in our kids. Dan dia bisa menjawab seperti itu, dan apa yang terjadi, bully itu tiba-tiba nangis. Dia bilang dia keluar air mata dan dia apologize gitu. Memang kita kedengarannya wow, itu kayak jawaban yang mungkin kita pikir klise banget gitu, tapi at that moment it touched that boy's heart, dan anak itu berubah. Besokannya dia yang ngikutin Micah, bahkan kasih hadiah, makanya dia pulang dengan hadiah itu, dan kita taunya afterwards gitu. Jadi what God can do through our children itu, it's amaze me. That's why aku bilang, I say that school is their training ground, and it's where they're being released into the world, and the arrow will do what it's supposed to do, is hitting the target, and what they're created to do.
In fact, I would put it this way, right? As we're in the world and not of this world, what's happening is we're raising a generation, a Daniel generation. So what does it mean to be a Daniel generation? Daniel was sent to Babylon.
Yeah.
And that's like the darkest place in the world. Nowadays, people are saying we are a modern day Babylon. And if you want to talk a little bit about Daniel, Daniel was taken from his home. He was taken out of his home. He was castrated. He was given the language and a new name. He was named after another religion's god. He was named after the Babylonian god Belteshazzar. Okay. He was forced to study their language, study their literature. He was in the middle of the world. Okay. Sometimes we are so scared of exposing I see parents are so scared of exposing their kids to culture, to the modern world, to modern society, because it's like sometimes by doing that, we're making God look so weak.
Yeah.
But in reality, this is what Daniel did. He went through all of this. He was even given the position of the leader of the sorcerers, of the wizards that are in Babylon. And despite all of that, he did not speak out against them. He respected their culture. He honored their religion, but he always was convicted and stayed true with his own faith. So much so that even though the kings changed 4 times, every single king he got to admit Jehovah was the one true God. And every single time Daniel was able to rise to the top in terms of power and in terms of authority. And so we are the arrows. Me and all your kids, we are the Daniel generation, and we are waiting to be released into a Babylon, into the world that we live out there today.
Ya, jadi sebenarnya kalau kita lihat contohnya di Alkitab itu bagaimana sih kita ada di dunia, we are in the world, tapi not of this world. Jadi kita nggak kompromi yang tadi Bu Tati bilang ya, bagaimana kita nggak kompromi dengan dunia, tapi ada di dunia, harus ada di dunia, karena kita harus menjadi garam dunia. Dan jadi seperti mau dibilang tadi, jangan takut untuk engage with the culture of today, of the day. Seperti Daniel tuh nggak takut, tapi bagaimana dia remain pure, remain in faith, bahkan saat dia mengalami banyak persecution, dia ditangkap, bahkan dia castrated,
forced to learn their language,
dipaksa untuk belajar bahasanya, bahkan tentang agamanya mereka, tentang their faith.
Sometimes we as Christians, we're so scared to even let our families watch secular movies or listen to secular music or play a game, right? That we make God look so weak.
Ya, jadi maksudnya mungkin contohnya yang lebih praktikal lagi gitu. Kadang-kadang anak-anak, oh iya jangan belajar ini, jangan main game ini, jangan main game itu, malah itu nggak membuat mereka berpikir gitu, kenapa nggak boleh? Jadi malah kelihatannya loh, kok Tuhan kelihatannya lemah gitu, jadi takut ketepak dengan dunia. Anak-anak kita tertular dengan apa yang ada di dunia, harusnya kan greater is he that is in me than he who is in the world. Gitu, seperti Daniel yang ada di
the middle
Babylon, dibalahkan dia.
All around him was sorcerers and wizards. His group of he was the leader of that group.
Bahkan dia dijadikan pemimpin dari ahli-ahli nujum di sana ya, magicians di situ.
So all the time throughout that, he was in the middle of that, but he continued to respect them. He continued to honor them. And actually, it's quite similar to Micah when in that Jadi there was this one time there was a deliverance.
Jadi sebenarnya waktu itu juga kita punya kesempatan untuk ada pelayanan pelepasan. Jadi Micah itu sebenarnya pengen ikut. Dia bilang, Mom, I want to go. I want to see. I pause for a moment karena gini, pause-nya kadang-kadang kita terbiasa dengan culture yang dulu sering diajarin di gereja gitu. Oh iya, mau pelepasan ya. Kalau pelepasan harus punya roh yang kuat ya. Kalau enggak nanti rohnya akan pindah dan merasuki kamu. Sering nggak dengar kayak gitu? Jadi kayak harus punya, kalau lagi nggak kuat, lagi lemah, nanti kerasukan malah gantian gitu. Jadi harus orang-orang yang kuat dalam roh, dan mungkin biasanya itu cuma penatua-penatua aja gitu. Sering banget kayak gitu. Tapi I'm thinking again, itu kayaknya nggak biblical juga ya. Kayaknya nggak ada ayatnya bahwa harus roh yang kuat, dan kalau nggak kerasukan, itu kayaknya nggak ada gitu. Jadi mereka boleh ikut. Wait, tapi itu bagaimana caranya ya? I don't know. Kita semua juga belum pernah gitu kebetulan waktu itu. I will learn about it, dia bilang gitu. Gitu. Jadi I allow him in certain extent. Terus udah gitu dia laporan, Mom, ini loh yang aku belajar. Dia belajar what is demonic practice and Satanist worship and all that. Itu semua sebenarnya like scary stuff sebenarnya, yang mungkin banyak anak kecil yang belum terekspos gitu. Tapi I trust him, dan dia bilang, dan ketika kita mulai pelayanan, kita masuk, and I've seen dia nggak punya fear at all, dan how dia command the devil is like a professional deliverer gitu. Jadi dia kayak profesional banget. Dia bisa dengan penuh otoritas dia converse with, hey, what's your name? How did you enter his body? And then itu sebenarnya menurut, kalau orang yang belum pernah lihat, itu ngeri banget ngelihat perubahan, bagaimana orang kerasukan yang matanya berubah, suaranya berubah, dan agak violence itu dia bisa cool, bisa tenang, dan dia hardik, dia bilang, get out, you don't belong here, and the devil be free in Jesus name. Dan setan itu keluar, dan I've seen it with my own eyes. Ini anak-anak gitu, dan mereka punya roh yang sama. they have the same spirit, the same Holy Spirit, the same authority yang Tuhan kasih.
Don't make God look so weak. Yeah.
Ya, jadi kadang-kadang apa yang kita ajarin itu, apa yang kita respon kita itu bisa membuat seolah-olah Tuhan kelihatannya lemah gitu. Kalau takut ini, takut itu. Gitu. Jadi
don't make God look weak. Don't be afraid to engage in culture.
Jangan takut atau ragu gitu. Kayak Daniel sendiri, dia belajar tentang agama-agama itu, tentang kepercayaan orang lain, dan dia bisa memberitahuan ini bukan dari Tuhan dan ini yang dari Tuhan. Jadi dia bisa bedain.
Yeah, if I had to sum it up, I would say it's your job to reveal His nature. Right? So not just His strength, but also His grace. And I think that's a good place to end, where I think my mom and dad have done an excellent job of modeling the grace of God, the strength of God, first and foremost, in our preparation, in teaching us and building our faith in these questions, in these doubts, but also the grace of God and what it means to be a child, what it means to be a son, a daughter, and what that grace looks like. Like, you know, the world nowadays, there's just so little grace in the world.
Yeah.
Like, I remember back, I think a few weeks ago or a few months ago, the only thing that was online today, like the only news was about that, what's his name? The guy.
The Korean
actor?
Yeah. Apa? Kim Seon-ho.
Kim Seon-ho. Yeah. So like, remember he made a mistake. He made a mistake and he messed up. And then all of a sudden, his entire career just dropped, right? And then everybody was canceling him. So there's that culture nowadays in this world that's kind of counter to how God works. It's called cancel culture. And it's not just the world, but it's also even churches, I feel. Yeah. Like something that I see happen so much is, for example, if your church doesn't preach something that I like, we're not going to play your music. You know, or if your church has a theology that we don't agree with, so there's just like lots and lots of like churches, even not just people canceling celebrities, but even churches canceling churches when we know that God is a graceful God. For example, in Luke 7, there's a story of, this reminds me in Luke 7 when Simon the Pharisee invites Jesus into his home. And it says that in his home, a sinful woman came to attend the party that John was holding for Jesus, that Simon was holding for Jesus. And it's a sinful woman, which means that the whole city was there and they knew that she was a sinful woman. And the sinful woman came and she wept and she cried and she used her tears to wipe Jesus' feet. And she took out the alabaster oil and then she anointed Jesus' head. Yeah. And Simon was thinking on the side, this woman is so sinful. The whole city knows it. I know it, but Jesus probably doesn't know it, because if Jesus knew it, he wouldn't let her touch him at all, because she's so sinful. She's that sinful. And Jesus looked at him and he said, I know what you're thinking, Simon, but you didn't even prepare water for me to wash my feet. She used her tears and her hair to wipe it. You didn't prepare even the basic oil for me. She brought me the most expensive alabaster oil. In front of a room that knew her sins, in front of everybody that knew her struggles and her sins, Jesus stood up and defended her. Yeah. That's the grace of God. And I think my mom and dad have done a great job of modeling that, because they've always been very transparent about their struggles.
Jadi sekarang ini kan, jadi kita tuh nggak cuma modeling bahwa Jesus is all powerful, Tuhan tuh dengan segala kekuatannya, indwells in our children, dan mereka ada Tuhan yang begitu powerful itu yang tinggal di dalam mereka, tapi Tuhan juga adalah grace. Karena itu sekarang ini culture of the day yang kita pernah ngobrolin tentang cancel culture. Cancel culture itu seperti apa, bahwa itu dunia itu begitu cepat menilai seseorang dengan kesalahannya terutama. Ya, jadi kita nanya sama anak-anak, what do you think about cancel culture? Ya mungkin kalau dia benar-benar salah, mungkin layak di cancel itu atau apa gitu. Then kita start this discussion, kita mulai diskusi. Oh jadi kita mulai defining people by their mistakes gitu. Jadi bukan cuma di dunia selebriti aja yang kita lihat banyak di cancel yang kehilangan karena they make mistake, oh semua di cancel. Salah ngomong cancel gitu. Jadi cancel itu mungkin di sini bahasanya boycott ya, di boycott gitu. Jadi semuanya nggak boleh ada iklannya, semuanya nggak boleh muncul lagi gitu. Bahkan kayaknya dihilangkan gitu. Dan sebenarnya Tuhan Yesus nggak begitu. Jadi waktu di Alkitab sendiri dikasih tahu ada satu orang wanita yang akan di cancel seolah-olah sama Simon, tapi Tuhan Yesus itu membela, bagaimana dia membela wanita yang mau di cancel itu. Dan what you were saying before, right?
Yeah. So what I was trying to say is that so that woman, is sinful, but the world, Simon, everyone was trying to define her by her sins.
Oh ya, jadi bahkan di gereja pun juga terjadi seperti itu. Oh iya, orang ini berbuat kesalahan, maka kita cancel semua bukunya, kita cancel semua lagu-lagunya, semuanya nggak boleh dinyanyi, nggak boleh dibaca, dan nggak boleh hadir sama sekali. Itu juga terjadi bahkan itu. Tapi sebenarnya Tuhan mau model what grace looks like. Grace looks like in the Bible. Jadi itu yang perlu juga kita ajarin sama anak-anak, bahwa we don't define people by their mistake, juga by not hiding our struggles. That's what you were heading, right?
So what I was trying to, I wanted, maybe this would be better for me to share, is that my mom and dad are never hiding their struggles. And so I've seen growing up with them, they would always be very transparent about their issues, their problems. So even there was a point when we were facing, like there was some error of judgment in their business, and they made it very clear to us. And so even in those moments, they were very transparent. And because of that, we get to witness the grace in the struggle. So we get to witness their response to struggle. So I think there's two merits to this. One is that so we'll never make the same mistakes, right? The kids have to be better than the parents. The kids don't make the same mistakes as the parents. But two, it's that when in the middle of their struggle, we see their response as they turn to God, as they're on their knees, and they don't blame the situation. They don't blame the world. They say, this is a problem that we made. This is a mistake. But in this struggle, in the midst of the struggle, we turn to God and we turn to Christ. And I witnessed that throughout my life in multiple periods. In the highs and the ups and the downs, I would see how they position their heart towards Christ. And I think going forward, for me, that's going to be very valuable, because I know when I see struggle, when I go through something bad, I've seen my mom and dad go through a struggle, and I know what it looks like, what it means to struggle. And I'm going to overcome that, because I'm going to react in the way that I saw them react.
Jadi salah satu bagaimana kita merilis our children itu juga bagaimana kita transparan and vulnerable dengan anak-anak. Jadi kadang-kadang mungkin ada yang, oh kamu kasih tahu anak-anak, ya mereka ada di front seat, bahkan mereka ada di bangku terdepan gitu melihat. Tentunya secara appropriately ya, mungkin Modi tahu paling banyak, dan mungkin mereka dengan versi yang lebih lebih dimengerti lagi, dan Moses and so on gitu. Tapi at a certain extent kita semua tahu apa what we're going through. Jadi bagaimana kita juga parents juga make mistake. Jadi kadang-kadang kita pikir, oh ya sebagai parents kita harus modeling perfection, semuanya harus benar, harus kasih contoh yang benar. Enggak, because parents make mistake and parents are human, we're not perfect gitu, tapi let them in on it, let them see it gitu. Jadi oh ya, we need grace. Kita this is where, ini bukan hukuman, jadi mereka juga belajar bahwa oh iya, this is how we see problem gitu. Jadi hopefully jadi waktu mereka nanti di luar sana, mereka making mistake and facing problem, mereka nggak easily blame situation, atau mereka nggak bilang, oh ya, kalau saat dunia bilang, oh ya Tuhan kok nggak adil, Tuhan Tuhan seakan-akan menghukum gitu. Tapi mereka punya this internal, udah ada filternya di dalam, yang bilang how they see problem, how they see God is good even in our struggles gitu.
And because of that, even the way we view mistakes it's in the lens of grace.
Yeah.
And not just our mistakes, but when other people fall and when other people make mistakes, we see that as well from a lens of grace, because that's the conditions that we've been raised in. That's the way we view. We don't cancel people. We don't define people by their mistakes. We define people by their intrinsic value.
Ya, jadi juga bukan ngelihat diri sendiri bahwa kita nggak di-define by our mistake. Kita juga nggak define orang lain juga by their flaws. Dengan kita nggak define orang dengan mereka punya kesalahan atau mereka punya kelemahan, gitu. Jadi vice versa.
Yeah, and that changes everything. That changes the way we view the world, the way we view people, and I think I'm really happy. I'm glad Mom and Dad did that. And yeah.
So jadi so this is how we gonna and land home. Jadi I pray, aku benar-benar berdoa bahwa gereja and parents would be equipped and not be afraid untuk engage with our children's mind, engage with the culture of today, because kita harus bisa conquer, harus bisa equip mereka untuk overcome, because he has overcome, and we can show that our faith is not blind, and we have reasons to believe, and that sebenarnya actually Christianity has the best answers gitu. Kalau mereka mencari jawaban di dunia sana, hey, let's look at what the Bible says, that what what God says. And I really believe that, keluarga adalah jawaban bagaimana kita equip the next generation. And, this generation, I think you guys have the potential to be the strongest generation ever. Karena the greatest generation is tested by adversity. Itu biasanya diuji dari challenge yang ada. Dan mereka sekarang hidup di dunia yang penuh banget dengan challenge. Di Babilonia yang modern saat ini gitu. Challenge mereka begitu banyak. And it's our job to walk alongside with them, and growing itu berarti kita acknowledge, kita mengakui benar ada challenge dan kita sama-sama belajar gitu, and we're not alone. Saya sampai hari ini juga masih belajar, and I'll be glad, maksudnya nanti kalau misalnya ada yang mau reach out and nanya-nanya, please feel free. I'll be glad to share some books, some if you want to learn more how to equip the next generation, and yeah, I think kalau misalnya dibilang nggak ada waktu untuk baca, like there's always time untuk audiobook. I kadang-kadang sambil masak denger podcast, denger audiobook, sambil make up, sambil keringin rambut, mandi pun bisa bawa speaker, right? So yeah, I think
if you have any questions or want to open it up, then that's it from us.